This is interesting. Mario Kart World just got booed at the Game Awards. I'm serious. Listen to this clip.
Best sports racing game. EA Sports FC 26, F1 25, Mario Kart World, Rematch, Mario Kart World, Rematch.
Now, obviously, Mario Kart World was going to win this award. That was inevitable. You knew that going into this. It's the same reason they gave Donkey Kong Bonanza the Family Friendly Award. Nintendo doesn't show up much for these things, but when they do, they gotta win something. But I noticed throughout most of the show, there were a lot of games that were getting just a huge amount of cheers from the audience. And pretty much anytime anything Nintendo came up, nothing. It was just silence. Doug Bowser came onto the screen to accept the award for Donkey Kong Bonanza, winning the family-friendly game. And even then, it was like, kind of like, okay, move, get off the screen, people want to start the show. But I thought that I was just being a little bit excessive. I'm like, maybe it's just my bitter feelings towards Nintendo right now is making me think that they're not being appreciated by the entire audience here at the Game Awards. But then they get to the part where they're announcing the best racing or sports game. And this is legitimately the first time in my life I see a Nintendo game get booed. I see a Mario Kart game get booed. I see any game get booed. They don't usually boo games at these things. And immediately, that, quote, vocal minority speaks up. Yeah, how about you take that thought of the people being upset with Nintendo being a vocal minority and shove it up your plumber's behind? The flagship Nintendo title, the launch game that is bundled with the Nintendo Switch 2, just got booed at the Game Awards. And it got doubled down and booed again when it found out that they won it, with what sounds like 14 or 15 Nintendo Glazers sitting there trying to outdo the boos with louder cheers. Yo, and the best part is too is when they mentioned Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, listen how loud the cheers were.
And Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. And the Game Award goes to Mario Kart World. Congratulations, Nintendo.
You could feel the hatred for Nintendo throughout this award show, and you can feel it even more anytime their games were mentioned, the irrelevance of them. And Nintendo is generally irrelevant when it comes to these shows, don't get me wrong. But when they do make it, it's for a reason. The games that they make are unanimously loved by everybody. They definitely do not get booed at these things. I mean, they did a player's choice thing, and not a single one of those games was a Nintendo game for a console that just launched, the Switch 2. Bonanza didn't show up on there, nor did Mario Kart World. No, of course not, Pokemon Legends ZA. The biggest titles of the year for Nintendo, the fastest selling retail titles because physical games are only bought by Nintendo fans. And there's little to no acknowledgement for them. And look, in most years, that would be fine. But everybody is just frequently shoving fastest selling console down our throats, fastest selling this and that down our throats. Record breaking, can do no wrong. All of these weird cherry-pick stats without any consideration of nuance, of what the current gaming market looks like, of what the stock availability for the Switch 2 looked like when it first launched, of the acknowledgement of just how little software sales have been going on a console that's supposedly selling amazingly well. You'd think games would be moving along with these ship units, except no, they're shipping units that haven't been sold yet, and most of them are sitting in Mario Kart bundles, and those are most of the software sales. I'll tell you this, Nintendo has always been a bubble. It's been its own little thing amongst the gaming community. It doesn't take center stage on the Game Awards. It's not acknowledged in the same manner of which these other titles and games and publishers and consoles are acknowledged, especially in these types of award shows. That is understood. But there is normally affinity for Nintendo because every single one of these people that are at these Game Awards all owned Nintendo Switches. They all loved Breath of the Wild. They loved Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They loved Mario Odyssey, Mario Galaxy, these games that they grew up with. The way that they are excessively celebrating for all of the indie titles, that's normally how they celebrate for the Nintendo titles as well, because there's a love and affinity for Nintendo games, generally. It's the console you grew up playing. It's the console you bought for your kids. It's the console you buy in addition to your PlayStation or your Xbox or your PC because it's handheld and it has like the fun games that you would do with your friends when you're having a co-op night. Nintendo does not get hate at these things. If anything, it gets irrelevance. And that's at minimum. Usually, when it shows up to these things and it has a game that's winning something, it gets loud cheers. It gets a lot of love. It definitely does not get boos. Now, in the case of Mario Kart World, a big reason why it did get all of those boos is because of its $80 price tag. That's without a shadow of a doubt. But there are other games with scummy business practices that are being mentioned here. In its own category, EAFC was mentioned. Heck, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds was mentioned, and that was a $70 title that you had to buy at 90 bucks on day one if you wanted all the additional DLC. But the boos did not go for that beat down, same game, treaded over and over again FIFA title, nor for that overpriced, supposedly Sonic game. The jeering and boos from the fan went towards Mario Kart World. And I don't think they were simply celebrating the inclusion of King Boo. No, those sounded like they didn't like the game. And then the fact that they cheered doubly as loud for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds cements that. And I love the few Nintendo fans that jumped up and tried to cheer over them. This is just so funny. If you thought that the internet was a small bubble, and you thought that the YouTube space, the giant, massive YouTube world, was just its own quiet and private bubble, a vocal minority, you need to reevaluate, because Nintendo fans are in for the rudest awakening. If things continue as they are, and once the Switch 2 is out long enough to match up with when the other consoles had stock, whether it's by the end of this year, by the end of 2026, maybe even 2 years from now. Remember, the Xbox consoles didn't fail until this year. They hit 30 million sold until people were like, oh, this thing's not doing too well. But at some point, Nintendo fans are going to realize that a lot of the cockiness, a lot of the arrogance, a lot of the elitism that they have, strictly because of the success of the Nintendo Switch, the same elitism and cockiness that Nintendo has going into the launch of the Switch 2, and how they've behaved through these past few years, because their handheld device was able to overperform since it was so cheap and available, there's going to be a big realization that all of that is without merit. And at the rate it's going, the only place where Nintendo will have any kind of vocal strength is going to end up being Japan. The one place in the world where they did not overcharge for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's a good thing Nintendo fans have Famitsu numbers to cling on to, because there's really nothing else. The flagship Nintendo title from the franchise that is loved by pretty much everybody unanimously across the past 30 years just got booed at the 2025 Game Awards after winning Best Racing Game. Yeah, vocal minority.